So hi there and welcome to this week's video. My name is Charles and today I'm going to be taking a little look at the Vanguard Veo 3 Plus tripod. I was in the market for something new, something that covered my multidiscipline sort of channel, and those nice guys at Vanguard suggested that the Veo 3 Plus would suit me perfectly. They state this is perfect from going from macro through to landscape photography. So I thought, great, let's try these out and just see how good it is. So anyway, let's get going and go and check out this tripod. I'll see you in a minute. The first thing included with your tripod is a really nice branded padded bag, and it's of a really high quality. Next, apart from the tripod itself, you also get the multi-angle central column, and this can be moved in 360 degrees in any direction. You also get the Arca compatible ball head BH160, as well as the quick release plate. Another really nice addition is the inclusion of spikes. These are perfect if you're a landscape photographer and need that extra little bit of stability in high wind. And finally, you get the MA1 multi-mount adapter. This is perfect for if you need to attach any additional lighting or maybe even another camera to your tripod. Right, so I think that's enough of me just talking about what's included in the box. The real way to test this tripod is to actually get out there and give it a go. So let's try a little bit of macro and a little bit of landscape and see how it gets on. Okay, so back at home we quickly ran through what was included in the packet, which I think was pretty impressive for the price range of this tripod. So let's start there. This tripod comes in around £230, and now that does make it quite an expensive tripod, but I would say my first impressions from using this tripod is it's got a very good build quality. I really like the fact I've got the twist locks on the legs. They feel really nice and sturdy. There's very little flex in these legs, which is really nice. In terms of how well this is rated, this tripod can carry a pretty hefty weight of 15 kilograms. Now I think that's, again, very good. And as you can attach 2 devices at a time to this tripod, I feel that that's well warranted actually, and going to be quite useful for a lot of photographers. So you attach any additional equipment to your tripod with the MA1 adapter, and it simply slides on the end, and I'll run through that a little bit later when we maybe look at how this works for macro setup. In terms of weight, this tripod comes in at just 2.5 kilograms. Now again, that's pretty good, I think. My other tripod is a 3-legged Thing Winston, and I think that weighs in at around £3, and it's quite noticeable actually that this is just that little bit lighter. It's made it quite comfortable to carry. So the ball head that's included is the BH160. Now I found on my first setup of this, the ball head was a little bit sticky, but I reckon that's going to loosen up with time. I think that's just because this is new out of the packet. But in terms of how sturdy the ball head feels, I have to say I've got no movement here at all. That feels very tight. In terms of height, this tripod can go up to about 172 centimeters. Now that's really good because that's at around my eye height level. I'll quickly demonstrate how easy it is. So simply twist this locking nut, raise it up and put the lock back in place, and hey presto, we've got the tripod that's really nicely at eye height level. Good for if you're looking for that slightly different angle on your shots. But let's put it back down for the moment. Right, okay, so we've sort of run through the specifications, but choice, the proof is in the pudding. So let's see how this tripod performs when we're taking some shots. So what I'm going to do, it's quite an overcast day, there's not a lot of detail in the sky, so I'm going to do a little bit of long exposure, see if I can just create a bit of drama in the sky. And this will be a really good test to see how well we maintain some of the details on the brickwork of the bridge. So let's get the shot set up and test out this tripod for its stability. So adjusting the ball head is pretty simple. Now if I want to adjust the camera on the ball head, I just twist this lever here, and then I've got full movement of the ball head, and that's great. And this one here at the front, if I twist this, I can then pan. So that's really nice. Nice to have those here. I know what you also have a second panning option on the tripod itself. Very useful when you're using the 360-degree head. So what I've just done is I've just taken my first shot, and it's at f11, ISO 100, and about 1/20th of a second. Now what I'm going to do is put on a 10-stop filter, and I've worked this out. This is going to be at a 1 minute exposure. So let's get this on and see, I'm going to take that shot and see how it looks. Okay, so after a bit of trouble, my shutter release cable not working properly, I've managed to get my 1 minute exposure. So now that means we've got our regular shot, we've got our 1 minute shot. Now let's go a bit further. Let's see if we can get this up to about 2 minutes. So I'm going to change this to f16, and that'll hopefully extend out my shot to about 2.5 minutes. And then that way we can just compare the 3 shots against each other and just see if we've lost any definition in the image at all through movement in the tripod. So looking at this on the back of the camera, that looks pretty good to me. That's the 2 minute exposure, and that looks really sharp on, and we've got some lovely detail in the brickwork of the bridge here. What are the positives and negatives of this tripod? Well, it's really sturdy, and I couldn't determine any camera shake when I was using it for long exposures, so that's a really good positive. It's really nicely constructed. All the locking nuts feel very tactile and have a really nice action to them, really nice and smooth. The legs, I really like the fact that they're twist lock, and they seem to lock in position really nicely. If there was any negatives, well, I feel like the placement of the bubble is a bit of a pain, because depending on where this bracket is for the 360-degree mechanism, it can block the leveling bubble. Not too much of a problem for me, because my camera has an inbuilt leveler, but for some people that's just not going to be an option. And another very small point was I found the leg unlocking mechanisms ever so slightly tight, but I reckon they'll loosen up with time. Okay, there we go. So my photos aren't going to win any awards today, it just wasn't really the day for it. But we have been able to test out our tripod and get a good feel for how well this performs under landscape conditions, you know, using it for long exposures. And sort of having a little look at the back screen of the images I've taken, the sharpness and detail in the brickwork wasn't affected one bit by any kind of movement or camera shake. So, which is a really good result for me. So, but now I feel like still some functions on this tripod we haven't tried out, mainly the 360-degree arm that can flip out into the horizontal and vertical positions. And as that's a key selling feature, I think we should go back to home and test this out and do a little bit of macro photography and just test out this 360-degree multi-angle head. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is test out this central column with some macro photography. One of the main selling features is the fact that it's multi-angle and you can pivot it to almost any angle of 360 degrees. So I'm going to be looking at how easy that is, because there's lots of knobs and dials here that you can twist and turn. Then I also just want to see how stable it is, because macro photography, as you know, it's really key that the tripod is as sturdy as possible so that we don't get any movement if we're doing any focus stacking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up a really simple scene on my table here, and then I'm going to put the central column through its paces just to see how easy it is to use and how sturdy it is when I take my shot. So I'm going to get set up now, and I'll see you in a second. So the first thing we need to do is just release the central column. So the first thing I'm doing is actually just unscrewing the small hanging hook that's at the bottom of the tripod. Then I can very simply release the central column and retighten it, and then using this clip here, I can then adjust the column of the bracket. And then when you get to the angle that you want, you can very simply just push it back and it locks quite sturdily in place, I must say. So now I'm just going to release this screw again, and I'm just going to bring this back into the middle. And it's as simple as that, just to push the column into a horizontal rather than vertical. If you do need to add any additional lighting or even use an extra camera, it's very easy to attach the adapter. So it simply slides on, then you push the little lever here, and then that is now locked firmly in place. And now it's very easy to simply just screw on your light or camera, whatever you need. Just make sure it's nice and tight. There we go. And there we go. Now we have light. If you need to rotate the central column at all, that's still quite easy. So simply release this screw here, and then you can rotate around the base plate here. Very simple. So what I'm going to do now, I'm simply going to attach my camera. Now you do get a base plate included, but I'm simply going to be using my L bracket that's already attached to my camera. I don't really want to be taking it off, but because they're both Arca Swiss, there shouldn't be any problems there at all. Now I'm just going to make sure the ball head is nice and tight, because there's quite a lot of weight here, as you can see, with my macro lens on and the camera. I would suggest just be careful with how you position your camera on the tripod. You could find you could very easily overbalance if you had it set to the wrong position. So as you can see there, it's tipping over quite easily. So what you could do in this case is pull across the central column so that it's not so far. You put it along that way, and there we go. That feels much sturdier now. So I've got this set up, but my seat is much too high. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lower my legs. So I'm just going to take the camera off for a second. Okay, so you can see my tripod's far too high here, so I'm going to lower it down a touch. So on the legs, you've got these little release knobs here. So you give them a little push, and that releases the leg. So I can give those a little push, and then it simply clicks into position on the next leg. So it's quite simple. Just make sure they're nice and snug when they go down. And there we go. We now have a nice sturdy base, and we've lowered the camera down to a much better level. So what I'm going to do now is get my camera a bit closer to my subject, because it's just a bit too far away. So again, it looks like I can quite simply release the lever here on the central column, and then you can adjust that down and then click it back into place. It's got like about 2 predefined positions that you can lock into. And now I can quite simply adjust my ball head to line up my shots. Now, ideally, with this kind of photograph, you'd want to use a focusing rail just so you could really fine-tune that focus. But for me, for this project, it'd be quite simply able to just adjust the ball head just to get the shot that I'm after. There we go, it's as simple as that. Now, if I want to get lower to my subject, it looks like I quite simply release this locking nut here and lower the central column down. So this way, it looks like I can actually get a much finer, get closer detail. Okay, so pretty much got the shot set up now. I'll quickly run you through my settings. I've got my camera set to ISO 400, and that's at f11, and it's 1/15 of a second. And I'm using the focus shift mode on my camera to simply cycle through lots and lots of shots of the subject, just to make sure I get everything in focus. And then when I bring these into Photoshop, I'll be able to blend them together to get a pin sharp image across the frame. So I think we're pretty much there, ready now to take the shot. So I'm going to go into menu. So I'm going to go into menu, focus shift, and I've got mine set to 90 shots with a focus step width of 2, which is right down near the narrow end of the scale. just so all the shots are really close together in focus, just so I don't get any gaps. So I think that's okay. So now I simply go to start and click OK, and now it's going to cycle through the shots for me. There we go, that's the macro test done, and I feel like it was pretty successful even without a focusing rail. I was very easily able to adjust for the focus using the central column. It was really simple just to release the nut and raise and lower the column slightly until I got the focus that I wanted and then tightened it. It was also, everything felt really sturdy and solid. The legs, again, they feel really nice and strong. There's no flex in there at all. Each of the locking clips for the legs, again, I found the clips a little bit stiff, but everything just locked into place really nicely and there was no movement at all. And I would guess that the clips would probably loosen up with time. And again, the central column, I can't fault the fact of how sturdy it feels. There was no movement in there, there was no slipping on the ball head. So all these things, I think, really made for a good macro experience with this tripod. So there we go, we're at the end of the review, and at nearly 20 minutes long I can hear you saying, "But Charles, I just want to know whether this tripod is worth buying." And the short answer is yes, this is a pretty awesome tripod. At £230, it's not the cheapest tripod on the market, but what you do get is something of a very high build quality and extremely great flexibility. That multi-angled head was perfect for doing the macro photography, for example. I was able to get in really close to the subject even without a focusing rail. The multi-angled head also felt really sturdy. Everything tightened up really nicely, and I had no trouble with movement or anything slipping, so that was a really big bonus. And for landscapes, the same thing applies. The legs are really sturdy even when fully extended, and I've got very little wobble even when I tried extending the central column up to its full height of 1.7 meters. And it's rated for 15 kilograms, so you can have no problem keeping this secure, especially with the added bonus of the spikes that are included in the kit. So whether you needed this for macro or landscape or a bit of everything just like me, then this is going to be the really perfect tripod for you. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video review of the Veo 3 Plus tripod. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. That would be absolutely amazing. And if you've got anything to say, stick it in the comments below. But anyway, that's enough from me this time. So take care, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.